Hello students, so today we shall learn about control structures in Java language. The control structures are those statements which change the course, the control of the program. They are categorized into two parts. The first category is known as conditional statements. The second conditional statements are called as loop statements. They are almost like similar one as we have encountered in C and C++, but with a little bit of change. We have got if and switch as two conditional statements, and they work the same way as they work in C language. I shall show you that if and switch, they are similar in one sense and different in another sense. So not every if can be converted into switch, but every switch can be converted into if. We shall see by example. Another category of control structure is loop. We have do while loops, we have while loops, and we have our ultimate for loop. These are the three loops we shall actually see their operation. And there are two statements which control the nature of the loops. One is called as break and one is called as the continue. The continue is similar as they work in C and C++, but break has one more good nature that has been modified break in Java language. I shall show you how break works better in Java language because it has proceeded with another operand too. So let us see one by one all these statements. Your if statement is followed by parentheses. So every if statement should have a condition. So and condition is written within the parentheses, and inside this, when the condition is formed, your condition will be formed using relational as well as logical operators. Like if x is greater than 1, so this is the simplest form of a condition, but if I add any logical operator to it, like if I say if x is greater than 1 and y is not equal to z, we can keep on adding the conditions into it and you will create a logical condition using logical as well as conditional operators. How this will be evaluated? So as we have seen the nature of the AND, we know how it will be. So if x is less than 1, because we know that x is equal to 1, so very first statement is false, so it will never ever go to evaluate the second one. Then we have a curly braces that is called as a true block that is associated with if, and every statement written within this will execute only when this condition is true. This if is accompanied with else. It is also having its own block of statements which is executed when if condition is false. And both if and else, they may contain another ifs into them too. If I say if z greater than 1 here, and else I can check another if statement if y is equal to 1, like this. So you can have as many if nested within the ifs. We can also have else if followed by a statement like y greater than 1. So how this is going to be executed? So this will be executed like this. So for example, if this statement is true, if this is true, we will actually go into this loop only. We will go into this block and this statement will be checked. So if this condition is true, then this block of statement will execute and nothing else. If I say this condition is false, it will go into this else block, and every statement written within this else block will be executed. So we'll never ever go on to this. So that means this statement is true or false. So in case of true, this block is executed. In case of false, this block is executed, and this else if can never be executed. So if I want to check in and evaluate this, so this is a wrong way of writing nested if statements. So we should actually write it like this. So if this statement is true, then this block will be executed. Now that if this is false, it will check and evaluate another condition. So if this condition is true, this part will be executed, and this else will be executed only when this y will be sending it as a false signal. So this is how your if statement works in. Let us check how the switch statement actually works in. The switch is a statement that is containing a single argument. We'll have to give a single variable or an expression within switch. So if I say switch x, and then we'll have a brace. This is called as a switch block, and in this switch block we'll be having multiple cases. Like the first case, it will be matching x value with the 1. So if x is 1, the statements within this will be executed, and every case will be followed by a break. We can have multiple cases, and in every case we can write multiple statements. And we must remember that every case must be followed by a break. Not mandatory, but why it is so? Because if x is equal to 1, only this block of statements after this case is needed to be executed. If there is no break, then it will continue to come into this case 2 and will execute all the statements within case 2 too, until a next break is encountered. So because we want to execute only the statements for case 1, so we should actually break it. In case there is no value that is matching with x, there is a default case which is written like this. In this case, if x is either not 1, either not 2, either not 3, so every statement written within default is executed, and this switch actually comes to an end. There is no need to write a break after a default. In case even if you write, it's not a problem, because anyway this switch is going to an end. So this way the switch is written, and the after we get to the interpretation of the switch, we get to know that this actually switch statement matches the equality statement only. So x can be matched with these 3 values. You cannot actually use or interpret this variable with any of other relational operators. So that means in case I want to write if x is greater than 1, so you cannot replace that if with the switch. But if this switch is written, its counterpart of if will look like this, as like if x is equal to 1, and its statements else if x is equal to 2, followed by its own block, else if x is equal to 3, and then final else. So this is how the switch can be replaced by an if statement. So in any way you like, you can use switch or an if statement. Let's come to the loops. Now loop is that structure which is used to repeatedly use one or the instruction multiple times. So if any statement we want to execute multiple amount of time, we need to write it into a loop statement. There are 2 kinds of loops. One is called as conditional loop, and another one is called as unconditional loop. Let's talk about unconditional loop first, which is also called as fixed loop. Fixed loop is when we know that how many times I want to execute a statement. So once I know how many times I need to execute, then in that case you need to use for statement. A for statement is having three major parts separated by semicolons. So in case you write a for statement like this is called as an infinite loop, because there is no structure, no initialization, no condition, and there is no counterpart of for. So in this case there is no statement written within these parts. So this for loop will act as an infinite loop. The first part, which is written before the first semicolon, is executed only once in the lifetime of the for. Like if I say x is equal to 1, so this will be initialized to 1, as it is already 1, so we need not write it, we may skip it. So if we want to start a value right from 1, so it is already 1 outside, we need not write it here. The second part is called as the condition. So we need to check this condition every time I execute this for loop. So I suppose if I write x is less than equal to 10. So the first part says that we have got x is equal to 1, and the condition is that x will remain less than 10. So it will start from 1, it will go till it reaches 10, and I want to execute and increment x by 1 always. So how this for loop will execute? So let me show you. Let us execute a single statement. So if I write hello within this for loop, let us check the output first and let us see the interpretation in the next video. Let's execute this. So we'll see that hello is printed 10 times. Now let us make some changes. If I increment x by 2, that means this loop is bound to be executed by 5 times. So every time what I do is I started x by 1, then I moved on to this statement. For the first time it comes to check whether it is less than 10. Yes, it was, so it enters into the loop. So once it enters into the loop and executes all the statements, then I go into the third part of for. This is executed after each iteration. So once it is incremented by 2, so now the x value is 3, it will move on to check this condition again. Whether x is still less than 10, yes it is true. It will again enter, execute all the statements, go into the third part, then the condition, then inside, keep on doing it like the same. You have noticed that the first part is executed only once. So either you can write it before for loop or you can write it inside this. Need not worry about. So this is how a for loop works. A while loop is just opposite to for loop in a sense that we need to check the condition before we enter into the loop. It is written like this. You just check the condition. If it is true, all the statements within the while they will execute. It will go on to check the condition after each and every iteration. So if we write x is equal to 1 before it, then I check while x is less than 10, and after each iteration if I do x plus plus, so this while loop is just equal to this for loop that I just used. So this for loop can be replaced by a while. Similarly, if we want to use a do while statement, a do is written like this. Let me just clear and explain it. A do's block is executed without checking the condition for the very first time. So you enter into the do loop for the first time without checking the condition. Once the first iteration is complete, then the condition is checked. And then you enter into the, if the condition is true, you enter into the do loop, execute all the statements, then check the condition, I'll keep on. There is very rare time you will be using this do while, because all your operations, they will be completed by either using for or while. But yes, there are certain occasions you will be actually needing the user to enter into a loop without checking a condition. In that case, this do while will be appropriate. So this ends up this video. Let's meet into the next video.